Welcome back to the illumilands. My name is Daniel Hurd, and in this video, I'll be going over a YouTube video entitled 6 Proofs for God's Existence. In a previous video, I went over 10 proofs for God's non-existence. So I figured it'd only be fair if I did the same for the theistic side. Before I get into the video, a reminder that my Patreon account is up, so if you feel like supporting the channel, you like what I do, consider going over there and checking out the different tiers that I've set up. You might just like what you see, especially with the Kalam debate map. I really put a lot of work into that. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Socrates once stated that we should follow the argument wherever it leads.
That is an excellent quote.
When we look at the most profound question of life, does God exist? We should certainly follow his advice.
This guy might be making some assumptions in calling that the most important question.
When we look at the most profound question of life, does God exist? We should certainly follow his advice. When we do, we'll find evidences that show us God is real.
Whoa! That's where all the evidence is? What's that evidence in the Indian Ocean? How's the Indian Ocean factor into all this? Look over here. What's all that land? God's bound to be there somewhere.
Let's look at 6 proofs that show God exists.
That word proof is a strong word. I wonder if a more accurate statement might be 6 indications? 6 evidences? I don't know about proof.
Number 1, the universe must have a cause. The most fundamental law of science is the law of cause and effect.
Okay, getting a bit more serious now. What does he actually mean by a law of science? Does he mean a law of nature? Or is he talking about how science is undertaken, the process of how science works? If he means a law of nature, then I'd say it's very contentious whether causation is a strictly natural law, a part of the physical world, or whether it's a part of some deeper metaphysical reality. I personally think the latter is more plausible, but to each their own. Even if causation is something purely natural, there's certainly no law of cause and effect akin to Newton's laws of motion or the laws of thermodynamics. However, he might also be referring to the scientific method in general, how scientists must presuppose the existence of consistent laws that govern interactions between things. Going back to the example of Newton's laws and thermodynamics, both are really just descriptions of specific kinds of cause and effect. This makes sense. I've just never heard of it referred to as the most fundamental law of science.
And it says that for every material effect we see, there is a cause that came before it or was simultaneous to it.
An interesting question here. Why didn't you say material cause? You said material effect. Why not material cause? That would at least seem more consistent. Or just leave it cause and effect, like regular. But specifically material effect and cause in general. Interesting. Now, it's very easy for us to view wording like this as being ad hoc, because we can think, oh, well, if he said material cause, then obviously the cause couldn't be God, because God isn't something material. And the person who says this is probably correct. That is probably the very reason why this guy chose this wording. But there's admittedly a pretty good reason not to put the word material in front of the word cause. If we speak of the cause of the universe, then obviously whatever we're talking about can't be something material, because the universe just is all of material reality. Adopting definitions like this guy does is actually pretty commonplace in philosophy. You will oftentimes adopt definitions because they avoid certain problems.
And it says that for every material effect we see, there is a cause that came before it or was simultaneous to it, and that is greater than it.
Greater than it? $1,000,000 question. How many concepts can be smuggled into the phrase greater than? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this guy will smuggle in different concepts into that phrase. I'm just saying it makes it easy to do that when the phrase greater than is so vague.
The universe is a material effect.
Well, the universe is certainly material, but he hasn't shown the universe is an effect. Did he mean originally that the law of cause and effect says that every material thing has a cause? In that case, he's just begging the question. We don't know the universe is an effect, and we know the universe is material. Thus, we don't know if every material thing has a cause. So far, nothing leads to the conclusion that
the universe must have a cause.
Nevertheless, let's agree, for the sake of argument, that the universe does require a cause.
So what caused the universe? You see, if you don't believe in a creator, then...
Wow, I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and he's already referring to this cause as a creator. I'm not saying he's going to conflate a generic cause of the universe with God in particular. I'm just saying he makes it real easy to do that. I assume he'll go on to say that the cause of the universe must be spaceless, timeless, immaterial, all the properties typically proven by cosmological arguments. But let's see.
You see, if you don't believe in a creator, then you have to suggest something like a singularity.
What? What?
A singularity. That's what is popular today, that there was some type of singularity that exploded in something called the Big Bang. But then when you try to get down to the bottom...
I love these preformed boulders flying straight out of the singularity. Also, I can't pass over that the Big Bang was not an explosion. It was a period of time where everything expanded really fast. Sounds like an explosion, I know. Not actually an explosion. I'm going to be real nitpicky in this episode.
But what's a singularity? Well, what we hear from the scientific community that suggests to us, the cosmologists, they say, well, a singularity was something that popped into existence from nothing.
If this guy is presenting this as a definition, he's just wrong. If an elephant popped into existence from nothing, this definition of singularity would imply the elephant is a singularity. The word singularity means something different. The idea of the Big Bang singularity is of our universe, not just the material in our universe, all the space too, the entire universe, being compressed as small and dense as possible. That is to say, infinitely small, infinitely dense. That's the singularity. In itself, it doesn't say anything about coming into existence from nothing, or even coming into existence in general. Now, what this guy might be doing is not giving us a definition per se, but rather saying what the singularity implies. This, at least, makes a bit more sense, because philosophers and scientists both disagree whether the singularity is an existing thing with infinite density, or just a mathematical idealization, the same as nothing at all, basically. If the latter view is adopted, the Big Bang singularity does involve a beginning of the universe with no apparent material cause. But again, it's controversial which view is correct, so we can't necessarily assume a position without justification.
Do you know that if there ever were a time when there was nothing, that's exactly what we would have now? The idea that something popped into existence from nothing is simply not a scientific idea.
It does seem that way to a lot of people, myself included.
You see, they're suggesting that that singularity is somehow natural, but it behaves supernaturally.
It took me a couple rewatches to finally get what this guy meant here. Scientists refer to the singularity as part of the natural world, at least those scientists who believe it really is an existing thing. But in science, we reject the idea that natural effects can occur without a cause. That's the thing that he just said. So, scientists are really saying the singularity is natural, but can do something naturally impossible. That is, something supernatural, coming into being from nothing. This is the most clear and concise way I can state his argument. The most obvious response is that he still hasn't shown the singularity came into being. But remember, this guy's concept of a singularity just entails it came from nothing. And this is a very contentious point, as already mentioned. If singularities don't inherently involve coming from nothing, then all his talk about
something popped into existence from nothing is simply not a scientific idea.
Is irrelevant. To make this conceptual link between singularities and coming from nothing, he needs to show the singularity must have come into being. And this is precisely what he assumes instead of defending.
They say that singularity wouldn't have followed the laws of nature.
Yes. Scientists say the singularity would not have followed the natural laws we see now. But they're talking about laws like gravity, electromagnetism, thermodynamics, all these different specifically physical laws. The reason a singularity wouldn't follow these laws is that these laws were themselves established in the early universe. The singularity couldn't possibly follow these laws because they didn't exist at the singularity. It has nothing to do with the singularity's ability to come into existence from nothing or violate some general causal principle. Even when cosmologists like Lawrence Krauss say the universe could come from nothing, they don't literally mean nothing, the absence of everything. Instead, they're talking about our universe arising out of some primordial quantum vacuum. You don't have to know what that is, just that it isn't nothing.
Well then, so what are we left with? We're left with the fact that the universe had a beginning.
Remember, the literal only reason he says this is because he thinks singularities only exist if they come from nothing. And he gives no justification for thinking this.
And it was not a natural cause, it was something above nature.
The more I study arguments for the existence of God, the more I'm becoming skeptical of there being some fundamental difference between natural and supernatural reality. People can be misled by the phrases above or beyond or transcending nature. because it evokes feelings of wonder, mystery, and a spooky new world of possibilities. But if the natural world just is the totality of our universe, then saying the universe was caused by something over and above nature is simply to say it was caused by something other than itself. If we define nature as extending beyond our universe, then we don't know the cause of the universe must be above nature. This really makes us think about what we actually mean by natural and supernatural. The cause of the universe transcends nature, exactly how the cause of the earth transcends the earth. The universe did not cause the universe. The earth did not cause the earth. This is the proper sense in which a cause is greater than its effect. But psychologically, what's more alluring to the theist? Saying that the cause of the universe is not the universe, or that the cause of the universe transcends the universe and is greater than it? Especially when your tone of voice serves to prime people's emotion toward a feeling of awe and wonder. I'm not saying this guy's doing this on purpose, but it's happening regardless.
It was not a natural cause. It was something above nature. It was something super nature. Something supernatural.
Whoa, jeez, man. You can't go around blowing my mind without warning me first. Again, that's fine. It's supernatural. But what do you mean by supernatural? I'm reminded of the debate between William Lane Craig and physicist Sean Carroll, where Sean Carroll repeatedly noted how problems of and arguments for God's existence arise because, quote, theism is not well defined. He said that many times. Theism is not well defined. Theism is not well defined. I'm beginning to take that approach when talking of natural versus supernatural things. It seems that in many, if not even most cases, supernatural is not well defined.
And so, when we see the material effect of the universe, we can know that there was a supernatural creator that caused the universe. Proof number 2.
Oh my gosh. This is only the first argument. There's 5 more. I'm going to have to save those 5 for later episodes. This is going to be a long and entertaining road. Thank you all very much for listening. It means a lot to me. Remember, if you like what I do and you wish to support the channel, subscribe, hit the like button, and if you really like what I do, consider going over to my Patreon. If you have any suggestions for future videos or any remarks about this video or something I said, feel free to leave a comment. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.